Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to my tutorial on the sound system in council chambers. What I plan to do today is to go over what you need to know to make your voice heard during council meetings and anything else in this room where we use this sound system that might be broadcast live. This has come about as a result of a number of issues that we've run into where people are speaking at council and they're just not being heard. And with a little bit of training, I think you're going to be able to find that you can easily make yourself heard no matter what is going on in the room. So with that being said, I've prepared a number of tricks here for a demonstration, and what I'm going to go over first is the microphone. So I'm speaking into a microphone here, and you notice you can hear me just fine. And the reason why you can hear me just fine is that I'm holding the microphone correctly. I'm sitting upright, and I am speaking loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone. The side of the microphone isn't the best place to speak into. You want this thing facing the piece of your face that produces sound. That's your mouth. So you want this thing aimed at your mouth as best as you can get it. Around the council table, we have microphones like this, microphone stands like this, that are designed so that we can angle the microphone at your mouth. So as much as possible, you want to make sure this thing is close to your face and angled at your mouth. The second thing to realize about these microphones, well, the first is that this is called a cardioid microphone. That is, it reads a heart-shaped pattern best. So without getting too technical, what it hears best is when someone is speaking into the top of it. It will pick up stuff from around the periphery, around here, but what it favors, what it really likes to hear is someone speaking into the top of the microphone, just like this. So use your stand, have it close to your mouth, even if you have to adjust how the papers and iPads and other things on your desk are oriented, but you especially want this thing close to your face and aimed towards your mouth. If you do that, you're going to have no problems with people hearing you, and you're going to have no problems competing with other people in the room. That is the second thing that you need to know about this sound system. And a bit of history in that we had to go with a wireless sound system. The reason for that being that this room has portable tables for council. They slide in and out of the way. We have concrete floors, concrete ceiling, and concrete walls. It makes it very difficult to run wires in this room. So we really had no option to go with a wireless system. The issue with that is the amount of controls you can put on a wireless system in terms of something that cuts people off when you want to cut off a microphone is very limited. Unless someone runs back to the audio cabinet back there and cuts off someone's mic, which I don't recommend because there's a lot of complicated stuff you can mess up back there. Really, all of our microphones, and everyone's got a microphone, all get fed into one black box called a multiplexer, and that multiplexer has to make the call as to who is speaking, who gets their share of the audio stream that is going out to the internet. So the multiplexer takes everyone's microphone and it decides who is speaking the loudest and clearest, who has the floor, and it takes their audio, gives it priority, dampens everyone else, and it gives it its share of this cable, which goes out to the internet. So that being in mind, if you are going to be heard, if your voice is going to go on the internet, if the listeners are going to get a quality sample of your voice, you need to do everything you can to tell the multiplexer that you are the one who has the floor. And how do you do that? You speak loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone. And I'm going to do some demonstrations now as to what can go wrong when people get busy, they let the microphone drift away from their mouth. It creates big problems. So for example, I'll just simple one problem at a time, we'll have microphone drift. That is, someone starts off speaking loudly and clearly into the microphone, talking about resolutions and all kinds of important things, and they gradually start to push the microphone away with their papers to the point where the microphone is maybe a little farther away than their neighbors, and it's standing out here. Or maybe what happens is they bump it or something like that, or they're talking and they decide, well, you know, this microphone's in my, I'm just gonna rotate it out of the way, just like this. And do you see the difference in sound quality here? Now this is a big issue just on its own, and I'm in an empty room. If I had a room full of 8 other microphones, maybe even 10 other microphones, the multiplexer would look at my microphone and say, well, I'm not hearing that much, just kind of a soft murmur coming into this microphone, but maybe someone is whispering or having a side conversation in another microphone, and the multiplexer goes, oh, that sounds good. I think I'm going to give priority to them. Before you know it, you're no longer getting your voice out on the internet. The priority from the multiplexer standpoint is going to someone who's across the room who maybe doesn't have the floor, whose voice shouldn't be going out on the internet. So again, and I'll say this again and again and again and again, because it's the moral of this particular video, is sit up straight, speak loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone. That's the most important thing you can do. Now, compounding this issue of microphone drift is the issue that you aren't the only one in the room. You're right. There are 10 other microphones, and some people, like myself, are serial fidgeters. So I have brought with me one of these wonderful things here. It's called a clicky pen, and I have another microphone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this other microphone, and this is actually also worth hearing. If you hear the kind of a springy sound on the broadcast sometimes, what that is it is someone turning on a microphone. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, did you hear that? Microphone should be live. Now, I have 2 microphones. I can speak into this microphone, and the multiplexer will give me priority, or I can speak into this microphone, and the multiplexer will give this microphone priority. It all depends on who is speaking loudest and clearest into whichever microphone. That's the one that gets its share of this audio cable. Think of it like there's a pipe. Okay, and only so much signal can go into that pipe. The multiplexer has to make a call as to whose signal is the one that needs to go into that pipe. And a multiplexer isn't terribly smart. It can't tell, it doesn't know Robert's Rules of Order. It can't tell who has the floor. It just has to go by who is loudest and clearest. That said, let me demonstrate to you what happens when someone lets their microphone drift and say across the room, like it could be the mayor speaking and someone doing this at the management table, where all of a sudden there's competing background noise. Here's what it sounds like. So I'm going to take my blue pen just like this, and I'm just going to start just clicking it just like this. Okay, it's already hard to hear me. If you were sitting in the room, you'd hear me speaking no problem over the sound of this pen clicking, but it's close to the microphone, just like somebody fidgeting at a table, and I'm going to just let my microphone drift. And as I let my microphone drift just like this, okay, you see how it's getting harder and harder to hear me? It's like the pen is speaking as loud as I am. So this is one of the things you always want to be cognizant of. Somebody could be fidgeting over on a table while you're trying to speak, or flipping papers back and forth, or whatever it happens to be. If you're not speaking loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone, the multiplexer might give priority to that person who happens to be fidgeting. And as much as possible, speak loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone. I'm going to say that a bunch more times. And if you notice your neighbor isn't speaking loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone, maybe their mind is on a particular important issue in hand, hey, go ahead, slide their microphone closer to their face. Because you always, even though you might be a shy person, it's always better to hear your voice on the stream than it is to hear somebody shuffling papers from across the room. The second thing with a multiplexer is when everything goes quiet, okay, it's still going to look at all the microphones and say, who's the loudest? So if I just stop talking for a second, okay, you see how it just went and suddenly picked up all of the ambient noise in the room? And this is a quiet room. I'm the only one here. Imagine if it was a room packed full of people, all putting coats on and off, or shuffling through their pockets, or iPhoning, whatever it is they happen to be doing. So as much as you can, if you have the floor, you want to be speaking loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone. Okay, so with that said, I hope that's helpful to you. If you follow that rule of simply sitting up straight, speaking loudly and clearly into the top of the microphone, I can virtually guarantee you're not going to have any issues with people not hearing you at home. Okay, so thank you for your time. I hope this has been helpful.